Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
It is episode 96 of the Say Hey podcast, part of the Believe Podcast Network. I am Doug Hayes. It is February 21st, 2023. No Say Hey Rob tonight, but I am joined by a great friend of the show, Brooks Knudsen. You can follow him on Twitter at Brooks Knudsen. He is a fellow Giants Chatter admin. Brooks, welcome back to the Say Hey podcast, my friend. How you doing?
Say hey. Happy to be
Say
back
hey.
on. It's been a little bit. Already up to episode 96. That is pretty awesome. And yeah, it's, we are officially in Giants spring training. It's real. It's happening. So happy to be on here to talk some ball with you.
Yeah, man. Pitchers and catchers reported last week. I believe everybody else had to report by today, I believe. So everybody's in Scottsdale. And like you said, yeah, we're on episode 96, which means, episode 100 is going to come pretty close to the beginning of the season. So exciting times lie ahead for the Say Hey podcast and for Giants Chatter and the San Francisco Giants. So been looking forward to this episode. Unfortunate Rob couldn't be with us, but definitely an above average substitute here in Brooks.
Well,
no, I'm playing, my man.
Well, I'll never be able to fill Robbie's shoes, jockstrap, what have you. But but I'm happy to be on in place of my brother Rob. So Rob, I know you're listening. Cheers and go Giants.
Go Giants. Yeah, so like I said, spring training is coming up. The first Giants spring training game is going to be this Saturday, playing the Chicago Cubs at 12:05. I haven't even checked if it's televised yet, but I'm sure I'm going to be hanging out with you Saturday, so I'm sure
That's right.
we'll be checking in on spring training game one, because all the stats matter on February 25th. So
I mean, you go 1 for 1, you are a spring training god.
Hey, we did this last year, Rob and I did, where we did. Now, I just want to preface this. This is not our top 5 players on the team. We're doing top 5 players to watch. And this is our list. And again, if you're new, this is a fan show. We're not experts, just longtime fans of the San Francisco Giants. So, just kind of getting our word out there. So I will read through Rob's list. He sent it to me as well. So he gets represented on here, of course, and we'll just do our top 5 players 5 to 1, kind of like in our little snake draft order that we always do here, about who we're looking forward most to seeing. And we'll go and do a little bit of detail on each player, and we'll wrap it up and get the hell out of here. How's it sound?
I dig it. Let's go.
All right. So I'll get us started. You know what? I'll say Rob's first, and then I'll go mine. Rob at number 5 has Joey Bart. So
I've heard of him.
I have heard of him as well. He's got a big spring ahead of him. Got some things he's got to prove. My number 5, I'm gonna go David VR. He came up towards the end of last year, had a great year offensively with the River Cats in AAA, hit almost 30 home runs. Came up towards the end of the year for the Giants, appeared, I think, in like 39 games overall with the big league club. Struggled to hit righties, but did have 4 home runs in 107 plate appearances. And against lefties in 74 plate appearances, he had 5 home runs and hit 292 with a 378 on base percentage. So in a slugging of 600. So David VR definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing his bat. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him defensively. It sounded like he's going to get a big bulk of the play at third base. And then obviously I'm assuming he'll get some run when there's, a lefty on the mound and they can't have Lamont Wade Jr. over at first base. So David VR is definitely going to be in the mix with the Giants this year. Hopefully he kind of has a breakout year, and that's my number 5.
Yeah, let's talk about David VR real quick. a true power bopper that's refreshing. The Giants, it's no secret they haven't been able to eclipse 30 homers. Belt, you're so close.
29 2 years ago. Yeah.
29, but thumbs down. You didn't get to 30, and we would like VR to be that guy, right? Wouldn't that be nice? A homegrown guy come up and rake
Sure.
like you see a lot of other organizations. They're like, oh, this guy hits bombs, and they bring him up, and what does he do? He hits bombs. Like it would be great if the Giants had that guy. But what's always stopping the Giants is playing time. It's always hard to dish out the playing time, and I get excited for David VR, and I get scared at the same time that he's been like so called handed the third base job so far, right?
Yeah.
I'm afraid he's 5 for 41 in spring, and all of a sudden he loses the job. But what are we doing here? It's spring training, right? So this is your guy to look at, right? Let's talk about him.
But yeah, he is amongst a bevy of other Giants infielders that are getting opportunities. I mean, he's in the mix with Wilmer Flores, JD Davis. I mean, Tyro Estrada is going to be in there. There's like the only like sure thing on this Giants infield is if he's healthy, is Brandon Crawford's going to play shortstop. That's how I feel about it. Other than that, like everybody's going to get a solid amount of playing time as long as they're healthy, and you're probably just going to end up going with the hot hand, which I'm fine with. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see David VR. I know I think he's 26 years old, so he's kind of a little bit of a late blooming prospect that you haven't heard of a lot, especially before 2022. But yeah, it'll be interesting to watch him this spring for sure.
And one more note on VR is his defense, according to the advanced analytics, actually he graded better than Evan Longoria last year. And Longoria is a guy, when you think of
Solid glove.
Longo, yeah, you're thinking of good defense at third. Longo had to deal with his seasonally injuries that he's, I guess when you're 37, that's just kind of what happens in baseball. We see it a lot. But David VR, young guy, I actually trust. Don't look at the errors. Look at what he can do on defense, and they like him at second base too. So just saying, anything happens at Tyro,
he'll be in that
performance
mix too.
Injury, yeah, you can see him at second and first. Obviously, DH. There's a lot of options for DV this year. So good pick. I like it.
Thank you. On to you, number 5.
All right. So here's a name. This guy's been on the Giants 40-man roster for over a calendar year now. Randy Rodriguez.
Oh.
He is on the 40-man roster. He's projected to start the year in AAA. He had a nice little 6 innings pitched there at the end of the season in 2022, but he went from high A to double A to triple A. And ERA kind of all over the place, messy at times, but you can't talk about Randy without the high strikeouts. He's always been the big whiff guy. Yeah, and that is what this bullpen needs. And they have a lot of guys. If you look at the non-roster invitee list, I think there's 12 guys that are all relief pitchers, just as non-roster guys. A lot of guys, but he is on the 40-man roster. So he's got a ticket, clear path to playing time this year. Excuse me. He is 23 years old. So you get excited about, you start thinking about Camilo Duvall and the core youth bullpen going forward. And Randy's a guy that they protected from Rule 5 this time last year. So they added him to make sure that nobody else will scoop him up, because those are the type of guys that go in Rule 5 drafts, guys that can really strike out a bunch. He's going to have to work on the walk rate and stuff like that, but doesn't give up a lot of homers at all, and that will play in the bigs. So I'm looking for Randy to have a nice spring.
Yeah, he definitely. The Giants have been known in the last couple of years to kind of like fast track those reliever arms, and he has kind of been one of them. And correct me if I'm wrong. Was it a shoulder injury? I believe. I don't remember specifically what it was, but he missed a significant amount of time, and it kind of slowed down his progress. And I know he's one of those handful of guys that, like, if we're talking specific, what the pandemic did in terms of, derailing development. Like, he's one of those guys towards the top of the list that I always hear in regards to Giants prospect. Like, Randy Rodriguez really hurt from, missing that time. Because otherwise, who knows? He could be up with the big league club right now, like as a for sure bullpen arm along the, like you said, with Camilo Duvall.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And it makes, it made the Giants, losing like a Gregory Santos. They I guess they technically had a trade with the White Sox, I believe, to get Eric Miller, I believe, from Stanford. I think that was that trade. But anyways, yeah, it's guys like Randy that are on the 40-man roster right now that are going to, middle of the summer call up, and I'm excited because they also lost Junior Marte. So these are the type of guys that when they come up and they stick like a Camilo Duvall, it's exciting. And sometimes it doesn't always work out, but can't deny the flame and the strikeout rate. Gotta love it.
Well, and like you say a lot, and I'm right there with you. You can never have enough K guys at the back end of your bullpen. You need some guys that can come in and dominate and blow it by you, throwing mid to high 90s, triple digits. You need those guys today in today's baseball. So
I can't help but add on to that, Doug. You just brought it up. In today's age of Manfred run baseball with constant changes, it is not helping pitchers. It's helping offense. It's helping more runs on the board. Banning the defensive shifts is pointing toward we want more balls to sneak through. And that is what's been tough even before the shift. Guys like Tyler Rogers, who don't strike out a lot of batters.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff happens. Crawford and these guys, Tyro, they can't get to every ball. So the best outcome is go in there and strike that guy out, and don't.
So you don't have to worry about that. Exactly.
Yes, no magic wand do. But Randy is my number 5.
All right. Just touching base on Rob's list at number 4, he's got the great Kyle Harrison. And I will wait to hold off on him because I may or may not have him on my list. Spoiler alert. So I'll give you my thoughts on that. I don't care. It's my show. I'll do it. Hey, so number 4 for me, I have Sean Manaea. Now, when the Giants brought in Sean Manaea a couple months ago, it was kind of like like I feel like this is, he's one of those guys that wasn't like really linked to San Francisco in the offseason, but people talked about it because it was there like, well, they could bring in another lefty, blah, blah, blah. A guy that didn't have a great year in 2022, stayed relatively healthy, made 28 starts, appeared in 30 games, a 4.96 ERA in 158 innings. Sean Manaea is a guy that is, had a okay career in Oakland, showed signs of like really good stuff. Like he has, in my opinion, a really, really good curveball. And that's something that I'm sure the Giants would love to have in the rotation. Here's the thing. He's on my list, not because I think he's going to have some breakout year where, the guy's 30 years old, 30, he's a fresh 31. I mean, he's still really young, or he's, right in the middle of his prime right now. But this is a guy that I want to see just where he's at this spring, maybe working with the pitching staff in San Francisco and how he's going to fit in because, he doesn't get brought in on that deal to come out of the bullpen. Sean Manaea will be in the starting rotation when he's healthy or if he's healthy. So, I'll keep it short and sweet, but that's why Sean Manaea is on my list here at number 4. I just want to see where he's at because if he's healthy, we're going to see 25, 30 starts out of him. So important spring for Sean Manaea.
And it's basically like a contract year for Manaea because if he pitches like a monster, we're not expecting him to set any strikeout records like Rodon almost did with the Giants. What did he fall like? A few Ks shy of passing Bumgarner, I forget. But this is really this is a chance for Manaea to just go out and do what a lot of the buy low candidates need a retooling of their careers type of situation that a lot of the pitchers have done before deciding to come to San Francisco. So that is, it works for the Giants. It works for Manaea if he has an awesome year, right? The only problem
It does.
is
It's a
see you
low risk
later.
signing. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Hey, worst case scenario, we're sitting here next, November, December, where we were with Rodon, even though mixed emotions about possibly bringing back Rodon with his injury history. But this is, Manaea has a good year. Maybe he goes and gets a 3-year deal next year. I mean,
Right.
but that's just the landscape of baseball today. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his numbers like in the last month. He had a pretty good month. I mean, 19 2/3, 6 earned, struck out 16 guys, only walked 4. So, some stuff is there. And I know that was, I think his last start was against the Giants, and actually he threw very well at the end of the season. It was like, of course, this guy's having a crappy year, but he's going to dominate the Giants in the last start. So again, I'm tentative to be like excited about Sean Manaea, but I'm really curious and interested to follow him this spring and see maybe if, we'll get some 2017, 2018 type of stuff from him. So,
yeah. One more thing on Manaea. I was just looking back at a tweet I wrote in December, right when the Giants got Manaea. And it was, Giants work out a deal with Scott Boras for a lefty starting pitcher born in 1992 that's been in the league for 7 years, wears number 55, and has pitched a no-hitter. It's a 2-year deal with a potential opt-out. Carlos Rodon last year, Sean Manaea this year. Everything I just said. Although,
that's
slow
great.
down, folks. Slow down. He's not wearing number 55 this year. Okay. 55. Yes. What is his new number? 50 something. I don't know.
It was like 53 or something like that. It looked weird.
Something not 55. We'll just go with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we'll keep an eye on how he does. Stay healthy, and he needs to limit the bombs. He had 29 homers allowed last year. Cannot happen again. And Oracle Park isn't a bad place to go and not get beat by certain guys that are just popping one out and drifting over the wall. Oracle's a good place where that turns into an out. So shall I go to my number 4?
Go for it.
All right. We're going with RJ Dabovich. An awesome name. It's like a relief pitcher's name, right? We're bringing in RJ Dabovich from the bullpen. Like, that's such a reliever name.
Did you do all AAA right-handed relievers? No, I'm kidding.
Yes, I think you're catching on to my trend here. I need to try something new here.
No, you're good. Go for it.
No. RJ Dabovich is probably a name that other people listening right now you've heard of this guy. He has kind of been fast-tracked in a way. He's 24 years old. And he just turned 24 the start of this year. So he is a right-handed pitcher. And the thing that makes RJ Dabovich interesting as a guy that I'm watching in spring training is kind of part of my theme here of just he's already made it to AAA as a 24-year-old. His stock is I would say it's still on the rise, even though he didn't have an amazing AAA showing. Strikeouts have always been there for him. We're talking about like 19.8, 15.5, 12.8, 11.3 strikeouts per 9. Just
is that good?
Killing it. Although he had a tough time with the walks only when he got to AAA. He walked like 7 batters per 9. Can't happen. Those guys want to hit up there. They don't want to walk. They're 1 3-homer game away from reaching the big. So they're not trying to walk in AAA. So you gotta get those guys out, but he doesn't give up jacks at all. And he's what I've been told. He is a bulldog on the mound. He is the guy that you want 7th, 8th inning guy for you in the future. So he has a fast track to get on this Giants club for the sole reason, everything I mentioned. Plus, Giants have to make a decision this year, Doug, in December of this year. They got to add some guys to protect them from the Rule 5 draft. And RJ Dabovich is one of those guys. And you're thinking you're already going to add him to the 40-man roster later this year. Why not do it this summer and give him some run? And another thing, I was doing a little research here, and a lot of the guys that need to be added in 2023 to keep them from getting purged by other clubs. A lot of interesting names here. I'm looking at Patrick Bailey, Casey Schmidt, Averson Arteaga, who right now is a lot of people have him as number 4 prospect in the Giants system. Technically,
he's liked.
Yeah. And he's only 19, and that's crazy because they signed him so young that he's already hitting that point. So someone might want to pick that guy up. Brett Auerbach, Jimmy Glowacki, who was in the Bumgarner draft comp pick, and Grant McCray. Those are your position players that need to be potentially added or else risk Rule 5. But the pitchers here, we got Nick Swinney and RJ Dabovich, of course. I already mentioned him. Your boy, Ryan Murphy. Okay. Trevor McDonald, Carson Ragsdale, Manuel Mercedes. Those are some names, some notable names. But Doug, only a couple of those guys are even non-roster invitees this spring. So is there some kind of strategy? Like they only have Bailey, Schmidt, and Auerbach and Dabovich. That's it. They're holding back Swinney. They're holding back McCray and these guys. Is there some strategy?
Something to it, right?
You don't want like, hey, like literally Nick Swinney came in and struck out Shohei Ohtani. Maybe in spring training, maybe someone remembers that and snags him in the Rule 5. So
showcase.
So maybe there's a reason why they're holding these guys back. So a lot of decisions the Giants need to make later this winter, next winter, I should say. But I'm looking at Dabovich. He's a non-roster invitee on that list, and he needs to be added to be protected. So I'm looking at Dabovich getting on the big club.
I have one last thought in regards to RJ Dabovich for you.
Please.
And because I don't know a ton about him. I'm following him a little bit this last year, followed his numbers. I know he strikes out a lot of dudes. Now, at the beginning of the season, Giants aren't going to have Cole Waits. They're not going to have Luke Jackson. Is there a possibility that RJ Dabovich, if he's strong in the spring, could make the bullpen out of camp?
I'll say a big no, only for the fact that in the beginning of the season, April and May is when you start having certain guys kind of trickle out, right? You know, Blake Sable is a guy that they're going to have to decide if they want to keep him long-term or send him back. He was a Rule 5 pickup. So
they're going to hold on to him as long as possible.
Stuff like
in
that.
The spring. Yeah.
Stuff like that, where it's not just Rule 5 related, but just guys that they're, non-roster guys that maybe like a Guzman, a Ronald Guzman, maybe they add him. He's out of options. So like when you add him, you have him play as long as he's good. And then if he hits a wall, you got to let him go. Then later in the season is where like a Dabovich might make an appearance. So
gotcha.
I'll say, let's hold off on RJ before, the All-Star break.
NO to RJ. Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. Rob at number 3 has, and you brought him up a couple minutes ago, Patrick Bailey. Now, this was the Giants draft pick in, what year was he? Was he 2020?
I think
he was their first round pick in 2020. I thought it was the COVID pick.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And this was Farhan's catcher that he, brought in the system, and, tough 2022, got sent down to the complex, or was that 2021? It might have been 2020. I don't have his numbers right in front of me. Sorry. But anyways, oh no, wait. Yes, I do have those numbers in front of me. I'm all over the place. Just ignore me. Anyways, interesting thought, because I'm going to be honest. I don't have Patrick Bailey on my list, but I just want to touch on him real quick.
Let's do it.
He is known for, like, number one thing regarding Patrick Bailey is he is a quality defensive catcher. I mean, he had a night, I think, early last year where he threw 4 dudes out in one game. Like, that's impressive.
They didn't know, but now they know.
now they know. The thing that sticks out to me is his splits are so night and day, and he is a switch hitter. And there's been some talk like, do we see this spring? Maybe the Giants are like, hey, dude, look, let's cut you hitting right-handed, just switch to left-handed, full time. And because here are his splits from last year, 70 plate appearances as a righty facing lefties. He hit 133, a 243 OBP, just 1 home run and 6 RBIs. Now, 254 plate appearances as a lefty facing a righty. 252, 370 on base percentage, slug 481, 11 bombs, and 45 ribbies. I mean, that is night and day splits.
And when you make him a lefty catcher to go with your righty catcher, it's like screams platoon Giants, right?
So I mean, this guy got up through, Eugene last year. So good chance we see him in at least Richmond. Wonder if he touches Sacramento maybe towards the end of the year. But it's not like Patrick Bailey's super young too. Remember, he was a college guy. So he will be 24 in just a couple months. So they could see if he's playing well. I wonder if, especially with, there is no certainty at the catcher position as of right now, reportedly. So we may see Patrick Bailey, if he's doing well, possibly get moved up quick. Who knows?
Absolutely. My 2 cents on Bailey is I don't do this a lot with players, but I'm kind of taking him under my wing as like I'll be the Patrick Bailey truther. And when he ends up being the guy, everyone will be like, "Oh, remember episode 96 of the Say Hey Pod?" No, no. I believe in this guy because a lot of people are down on him. That's when I start looking under the surface. Why is everyone down on Bailey? Oh, because he hit 185 in 155 plate appearances in high A, and then he did 225. And okay, let's look at some batting average. He had a tough BABIP, 256. Okay, but the walk rate was always there. Always gets on base, a really solid clip there.
Yes, and which they value for sure.
But what are we even talking about here, Doug? This is a catcher. If you are winning a Gold Glove minor league defense,
your bat doesn't matter.
It's just give me something. And he had 12 bombs and 325 plate appearances. Yeah, sure, high A ball, whatever. But the walk rate's legit. 15% of the time he's getting on base. I like that. And it is what it is, man. Patrick Bailey, hands down, will be added if he's not traded. He will be added to the 40-man roster this winter. Everything I mentioned like 5 minutes ago. They're not going to let this guy go in the Rule 5 draft. Believe me this, okay? So Patrick Bailey's coming, and it's either going to be added to the 40 this winter or earlier. So keep an eye on him. But 2024 is Bailey's year for me.
ETA. Yeah. Well, that's Rob's number 3. So Rob, you're welcome for spending 4 minutes on it. Yeah. I'm not just playing. So my number 3, I'm going Disco, Anthony DeSclafani. Here's the thing. He had a really good overall 2021. Outside of his handful of starts against the Dodgers where they just obliterated him, I mean, he was great. He had a great 2021. Obviously, last year came out of the gate slow. I think he made 3 starts, did not look good. Ended up having season-ending ankle injury or surgery. I'm sorry. And Rob and I have kind of touched on here before, like maybe there was something else, that was still going on prior to that, and the whole offseason before he signed that 3-year deal with the Giants before 2022. I just want to know what we're going to get from Anthony DeSclafani. I don't know if he's going to be in the rotation to start. I don't know if he's going to be out of the bullpen. He's going to be on the mound at some point early on because, they're paying him. And when he's healthy, like his stuff's good. And that's kind of how he's always been, even when he was his Cincinnati Reds days, where, Anthony DeSclafani was hurt a lot, but when he wasn't, he was good. And we saw that 2 years ago at the Giants. So, we hear that he is healthy. He's ready to go. I want to see him this spring. Maybe like I could have put him at number 1 because I just want to see what it is. Because if he comes anywhere close to what he did 2 years ago, the Giants are just getting a bonus arm to this rotation, I feel like, compared to what they had last year. So number 3, Anthony DeSclafani for me.
I dig it. Yeah, this is a guy that, hey, injuries happen in the game. Okay. And it was the only thing weird is it was just a weird time for the injury. Like he dealt with the ankle injury and then, okay, well, he should be all good. Oh no, he actually had surgery. What surgery? And
yeah,
then he tried to play through it. Didn't work out. Had another surgery, right? I mean, that's basically how it all went down. So very, very peculiar, first year of his new deal, basically. But I still believe in him. His stuff is nasty. People don't think it. I think when they think of DeSclafani, they think he throws like 90 miles per hour or something. He doesn't. 95 with movement.
He's a mid-90s guy with some spin. Yeah.
Nasty movement that, okay, 98, 99 straight or 95 with movement. I want a guy throwing 95 with movement. These hitters can gear up 99 flat, but I believe in him. I'm not going to go into all the crazy details, but he also he's a veteran coming off of a atrocious year just for him, right? He definitely saw it going differently. Didn't work out for him, so he has another chance. And it's a good problem to have, I should say. They have too many rotation pieces. Where do they all fit? A lot of teams wish they had that problem. So go Disco, get back to your 2021 days, and we'll be super good.
Number 3 for Brooks.
My turn. And you're probably going to think I picked this guy's name just because of his name, but Cade McClure. I'm sticking with the right-handed relief pitcher thing.
Nope, you had your son do this list.
Yes, Cade with a K. If you're gonna birth a pitcher, make sure his name starts with a K. There we go. This is a big righty, 6'7", 220. So he's not very huge. He's tall and trim, right? 220 pounds is crazy. I think Shamanaya is like 6'5", 245 or something.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Yeah.
He's a big shoulder guy. So this is a long, lanky guy. They recently added him to the system. He's been with Chicago White Sox, and they got him on a I think it was a trade. I already forget. Sorry everyone. I can't remember. But I think he was traded here, and 87 innings in AAA last year. Mind you, he's 27, so he should be in AAA. If not the bigs, but he's still
at minimum,
he's still waiting to crack, the show, get his debut. But high strikeouts, low walks, basically every year of his minor league career. That will get you in the bigs. He has a home run problem. He gives up a couple bombs here and there. It's AAA bombs, so I don't read too much into it. Can he strike guys out? Can he limit the walks? I think there is a chance for him to make the big league club this year, especially since he's already had 2 full seasons-ish at the AAA level. So the Giants picked this guy up in order to just like everything I've mentioned for all the guys, RJ Dabovich and so forth. It's just keep stockpiling your relief depth, because it's very volatile. Whoever was good last year might not be good this year. Yeah, you have some hitter that hits 40 bombs last year. He's probably going to do well this year. Like, those are things that continue, but relief pitching not so much at times. Very volatile. So Cade McClure might be a name we hear from, and he's my guy.
And outside of Camilo Duvall, especially you've hammered it home. Like, the rest of that Giants bullpen last year, not a lot of Ks in it. And so I think maybe that was one of the things that towards the top of the priority list of this offseason was we got to bring it. And it starts with Taylor Rogers. Like, Taylor Rogers is a big K guy, total opposite of his brother, literally throws left-handed. But, Tyler Rogers induced a ground ball and get 6 Ks, 7 Ks per 9. Taylor Rogers is going to come in 10, 11 Ks per 9, throwing a little bit harder too. So, I think that was definitely a priority this offseason. So, Shane McClure, definitely another name to keep in the back of your heads.
And I picked him because I knew you and Rob would not have this name on there. So this is just like my one pick that wouldn't be picked kind of thing.
Well, you saved me a lot of work, because at number 2, I have Shane McClure. No.
Cade, all right? Kade.
Cade, why do I keep saying Shane? I don't know why I keep saying that.
Because
Cade.
There's a Shane McClure out
McClure. I'm sorry. Maybe it's your hair. You look like a Shane right now. Anyways.
The people listening can't see my hair.
Rob at number 2, here's a name that's kind of just been hanging around for a little while. Will Wilson.
Ooh, I almost added him too. Nice.
Will Wilson. So he's been around for a couple years now.
Willie.
Yeah. So everybody knows about Will Wilson. So
let's just say Will Wilson. If you make it to the bigs this year, we'll be very stoked for that.
Yeah. Giants number 2 for me. Michael Conforto. And This is the guy they brought in. He didn't play at all last year, recovering from major shoulder surgery. His last full year was basically full year was 2021, 2 years ago. He played in 125 games, hit 232 with a 344 on base. So it gets those walks, 14 home runs, 55 RBIs. But if you look from 2017 through even the COVID year of 2020, Michael Conforto was a legit power threat. 27 home runs in 17. He was an all-star. 28 home runs in 153 games in 18. 33 home runs in 151 games in 2019. This guy is a power threat through and through, and a big left-handed power bat in the outfield that the Giants, kind of been waiting for like Mike Yastrzemski to do things consistently, maybe Lamont Wade Jr., but now they bring in Michael Conforto on I believe it was like a 1-year deal, and then he can opt out after. No, he's the 2-year 36. That's right. My bad. I'm mixing all these freaking opt-out deals with the Giants.
Haniger is definitely here for 2 years.
Yes, and then that is for yes. Potential. Yeah. So, Conforto. Definitely, I am excited about him because if he's on the field and he is healthy, and it feels like he's been around forever. The dude turns 30 like next week. He's not even 30 yet. So, if he's healthy, Michael Conforto could be a cross Major League Baseball sleeper edition if he stays on the field, and is a guy that probably won't be a platoon guy. I think they're going to try and play him every day if they can. So
that's
definitely
why he's
excited.
Here.
Yeah, definitely excited for Michael Conforto. He's my number 2.
And I got to tell you, you're not going to like this. You're not going to like this, Doug. I'm looking right at you.
Don't you do this. I'm blinking my camera.
Here we go. Left-handed batter, known for hitting for power, doesn't steal a lot of bases, really good walk rate, not an exorbitant amount of strikeouts. Really high WRC plus all the time. Low-ish 250 round batting average.
I already know where you go with it.
Strong F-WAR every
year.
Now
plays for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Tough time staying healthy. And this is your guy? You're talking about Brandon Belt, but
I'll tell you what, if Conforto does this for the next 10 years, then I'll have issues, okay?
His numbers are amazing, and it literally looks like if Brandon Belt spent his career in New York Mets this whole time.
That's fair.
27 bombs and 28 and 33. No, I'll give Conforto a little more credit. I don't even need to say much. I've said everything about this guy. He is the only reason the Giants were able to get him is what they do. They say, hey, you're very much stock is very low. You're coming off injury. Like that's the only reason this guy's available. Otherwise, Steve Cohen would have given him the Brandon Nimmo deal. Like, who cares? Here's 160 million. Like, what is 100
years?
I have so many billions. What is 160? Okay, so all that being said, Conforto is a Giant. He was a big Barry Bonds fan growing up. And if you just go to Baseball Savant, just click his profile and just look at his spray chart and click one of the homers. Literally watch a replay of some of these bombs, 460-foot shots.
Mammoth shots.
It's effortless swing, though. It's like he looks like he hit a base hit, but it went up 470 feet. So Michael Conforto, very excited that he's a Giant for only this year after he does amazing and then leaves. So,
hey, it doesn't get more SF. No, I'm definitely excited to see him. I believe, actually, I think I'm looking at this correctly. If he reaches 350 plate appearances this year, he can opt out.
Yeah, he's not being platooned. He'll get an occasional day off. He's going to play every day. That's exciting because
the Giants need more of that.
He's a Boris client too, I believe, right? It's just
yes, he is.
It's just, hey, you're going to come here and you're going to play, and I think that's why. Just because Rodon and Boris came to the Giants last year, I think that's why they didn't go to the 6-man rotation. Okay, I'm just saying. He wouldn't allow it. Boris wouldn't allow it. All right, getting back on track here. Good Conforto pick. Is it my turn?
Numero dos.
All right. this one we won't spend very much at all talking on this one, but I'm going to be looking for more. I don't even want to do this. Elliot Ramos. I just want to see what this guy does in spring training. I still think this guy can do something. He's so young. He never really had like an actual shot to play, and many would argue that he hasn't deserved a call up. And by way of 40-man happenings, he was added to the roster because of how long he was in the organization. This will be his 7th professional year with the Giants. What? 2017 he was here in rookie ball as a 17-year-old. So anyways, he's 23 now, and he needs to have a really good year. It's a make or break kind of season for
huge year for him.
If he can quiet all the haters if he goes out and does what VR did last year. And I will say VR had a very similar season to Ramos when they were the same age. Okay. So when Ramos was 22 and he hit 227 and hit 11 homers, VR basically did that when he was 22 as well. So there's time for growth. We got to remember how young this guy is, but time is kind of ticking. He's been on the 40 already. He's already had an option used. So options. Oh yeah. You can't go too long on this with me without hearing about options. But,
I think the difference between Ramos and I want to say this. I have watched Elliot Ramos through the system, and yeah, the first few years I was a believer in him. I think the difference between him and VR is what they play. Elliot Ramos is an outfielder who has lost some athleticism due to injury. It sucks. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he has moved to more predominantly like right field and right field only, it feels like. And he's, kind of put on some weight, maybe some good weight, maybe some not so good weight. And he's just a bigger guy. I don't know what he looks like right now. Maybe he's slimmed down. I don't know what he looks like right now. I'm basing this off of last year. Mm-hmm. But also, David VR hasn't really dealt with any significant injuries coming through up through the system, and he's an infield guy. I just feel like that's different. But I understand your comp, like with the bat. I get that big bopper guy.
Age and bat, yeah.
Trust me, again, like I said, I was an Elliot Ramos guy the first few years. Kind of the last year and a half, I've kind of walked away from that. But I would love for Elliot Ramos to have a great spring, probably realistically start the year in Sacramento, and dude, light the world on fire through May. And then if there's an injury or so, like if he gets brought up, like give him a legitimate shot, mm-hmm. Because I think last year, I think the way the Giants, I blame the Giants for how I feel about Elliot Ramos, because when they mm-hmm. brought him up, it was like a cup of coffee, goodbye. And then they brought him up for the second time, and we knew because there was a right-hander going on Monday. I'm like, he's not going to make it through the weekend. He's going back on Monday,
right?
And he did. So which
he also knew that, which sucks.
Yeah. Correct. Which leads me to think that the Giants don't have faith in him as a long-term guy, and now it's possibly, like you're saying, vice versa. So I hope he has a great spring. So that's my thoughts on Elliot Ramos.
That's fair. And the two things here is that he is he's a first round pick, so he's always going to have that extra chance. Yeah, he's going to get more opportunities than 8th round guys and stuff like that. He's also part of the prior regime. Bobby Evans drafted him, so he is a asset to Farhan. He just really hasn't had enough reason to use him yet. Although, if we're looking at how the Giants roster is constructed, we're looking at right-handed, somewhat athletic center fielders. They've lost a few of those guys over the years. Mauricio Dubon is one of those that was just a center field / right field option who bats right-handed. They don't have a lot of those guys. They got Austin Slater. Mitch Haniger is not your outfielder per se, but he will be in the outfield if that makes sense.
And probably like Conforto most days.
Yeah, exactly. So, and probably like Conforto will get injured at some point, and Elliot Ramos will get the call. That's all I was segueing into. Elliot Ramos is on the 40-man roster, and he's had amazing springs before, and then he didn't do much in the minors that year. So nothing to read into if he blasts 6 bombs in spring, but I'll be watching to see what he does this year. And
give me back on your good side, Elliot.
Give me back on your good side. Too.
I want to go back to the Levin Elliott side.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we are through 5 through 2. Now we're moving on to number 1, and for number 1 for Rob, this one kind of shocked me. He has Colton Welker number 1.
It doesn't shock me because brought it up in our chat many times. Colton Welker.
I mean, that's true. I mean, this is a guy that I believe got picked. The Giants, did they get him off of waivers or something from the Rockies? I think he's a Rocky.
He's definitely a
and
Rockies.
He's a corner infield guy. I think he could play first and third.
Rockies lifer.
So, yeah. And I know he had a cup of tea up with the big league club either last year or the year before, but I believe last year in AAA, like he had a pretty solid numbers, if I'm not mistaken, with AAA Colorado. So, yeah, Colton Welker at number 1 for Rob.
I'll just say I don't know much about Colton Welker other than just basically a stat sheet. But
Sure.
One thing that stood out to me is just hasn't played baseball a lot. Like probably dealing with a lot of injuries. But he's been 2016 as an 18-year-old in the Rockies system. I mean, we're just not – he just hasn't had a lot of games.
So he's what, 25, 26?
He is 25 years old. He'll be 25 throughout the entire year. So he's still fairly young.
Fairly young. Yeah.
And I'm just saying, like the games played are very low, so we don't have to get into it. But I'm looking at a guy who's probably had a lot of injuries after the 2018 season. So I still think there's raw power there, but he hasn't had a lot of chances to show it what he can do. Kind of like a Hunter Bishop. So
like I said earlier, there could be a lot of turnover in this Giants infield in 2023. Let's see what he can do. If hopefully David Villar works out and he becomes like the majority of the time third baseman. If not, there's JD Davis, but JD Davis, it's not like he's a sure thing, but he's split proof. He'll get his opportunities. And then after that, it's kind of like, well, we have Omar Flores. I mean, so Colton Welker may end up getting a shot with the Giants at some point in the season. So
yeah, we'll I mean, I think they would prefer if he just kind of mashes in AAA and
makes it easy.
Well, just ends up being a piece because the last thing on Welker for me, and I'm glad Rob mentioned him, kind of tying back into the Brandon Belt thing, but like Belt's gone. So he needs a new injured first baseman to talk about, and it's Colton Welker. Colton Welker sounds like a Texas name, like Brandon Belt. And last thing I'll say is Giants don't have a lot of first basemen in the system. Can you think of one?
Not.
Like any
Logan Wyatt? Is he still around?
Wow.
Joe McCarthy? He's gone.
Wow.
But I mean, am I wrong? No, I mean,
they don't have a Paul Goldschmidt waiting to come up. That's the problem. So they need to just see more dart throws like Colton Welker, the better for first base. Just leave outfield alone. Just start finding more first basemen, please.
First base is arguably it's the weakest position in the Giants system.
No, Belt left
the bottom.
Dude. He's on Toronto. He's on Toronto now. No, I'm just kidding.
Can we just keep his glove? No, I'm kidding.
I'm just kidding.
All right. So number 1, you want to go first? Or you want me to go?
No, please you.
Okay. This one I feel like it's obvious. It's Kyle Harrison for me. Yeah, weird, right?
We should have started the show with him. Now everyone that left is going, "Oh, Kyle Harrison." No, I'm just kidding.
No way. Yeah, big shocker here. I'm just excited to see him. I in the spring for sure, but I'm hoping he gets like a decent amount of opportunities to go up against Major League Baseball players. We already know what he can do against minor league guys. I'm hoping he gets opportunities where he's seeing some proven Major League bats, and maybe he gets to face 15 to 20 proven Major League bats in this spring. And I think the number one thing that will be interesting that maybe not a lot of people are talking about is he threw 113 innings last year, which is not a lot. I think it's up from 90 something that he had in 2021, but hey, this is a 2020, I believe, 3rd round pick. Kyle Harrison has like jetted up through the farm system. He's the number 1 left-handed starter in baseball regarding prospects, and right there towards the top of prospect starters. So guy's gonna throw hard, strike out a lot of guys. I believe 14.8 Ks per 9 in his year last year with Eugene and Richmond. So at worst, we know he's unless something happens where he is like dominant and there's like injuries in the spring, he's gonna start in Sacramento. But I think what nobody knows is how long is he going to be there for? Because if he's coming out of the gates and his first like 4 or 5 starts with the River Cats are really, really good, and there's a hole in the Giants rotation, I think they may pull the trigger quick and bring him up. We'll see. But he is definitely going to be with the Giants at some point this season. The big question is it going to be sooner or later?
Yeah, it definitely feels like if you're Kyle Harrison and you're reading all this stuff about you and you're like, hey man, I've only had like a few games in AA. Can we just no, he wants to be here. He would love to throw 3 no-hitters in spring training and then be like, all right, now you have to use me. Kyle Harrison, the strikeouts are amazing. His velocity went from like right when he became a pro to like the next year. I think he just like put so many ticks on his fastball, and he has done everything you want. Like, you know, your next Bumgarner, like that type of guy,
your next big arm.
But
he's made those strides.
High school lefties specifically, like a guy that's like the only reason the Giants even got him in the 3rd round is everyone thought he was going to UCLA. So no one wanted to do it. And the Giants said, we'll pony up and give you the big bucks, dude. So they did their whole draft to get Kyle Harrison, basically, with all the slot manipulation. Not going to get into it, but Kyle Harrison is a Giant. He's a number 1. He's a 1st-round pick that was drafted in the 3rd round in a weird draft, right? So it's amazing that they even have this guy. And
De La Salle guy.
Yeah, a local guy, and they guessed right. They love getting their local guys.
They do.
So I'm not going to get into too much on the background of Kyle Harrison, but just trying to look at the big picture here. This is a guy that needs to still develop. Like the Giants didn't just hand him the keys to the Ferrari and say, it's all you, buddy. You're going to be our 5th starter this year, and maybe DeSclafani will be or Junis will be in there as well. Like, no, they went and got Manaea, and they've got Stripling, and they did what they do, whether they're going to trade those guys or let them opt out or whatever it is. But Kyle Harrison is the future for the Giants, but he does need to work on certain things because he's still young and he's still blooming. And the thing that sticks out to me, besides everyone knows about the strikeouts, is his walk rate is not good. It's 4.5 walks per 9. That's not good. So he needs to get that down. And this is at a level where guys are swinging crazy. So as he gets up to higher levels, man, it's going to be tough to get that walk rate better. So people are already yawning right now. They're like, dude, stop talking smack about Kyle Harrison. He's our guy. I know. I'm just saying, let's just be real. This guy needs to work. He needs to work, and he needs to get it done in AAA. And if he gets it done in AAA, Doug, that'll be super impressive because PCL is a monster.
Mash. Yep.
Yeah. So
a lot of offensive numbers there in AAA. Here's my last question for you regarding Kyle Harrison.
Yeah.
If he's up on, let's say he's there June 1st, are the Giants in trouble, or is it because he's thrown really well?
See, you're missing a little context there. Is he up for just a 2-inning relief appearance and then back down?
No, I want him. If he's up, I would love he needs to stay up, in my opinion. But
shortly after June, you're already skipping Super 2 stuff. So they get to keep an extra year without having to, you're basically saving a year before you get to arbitration by doing so. So, I see anything after June, I could see it. But before June would be like, not these Giants. They like to spend their money very wisely. So they would not. Yeah. So, the question is, are the Giants in trouble if he comes up? I would probably say a lot of injuries happen if he's up because they have Tristan Beck on the 40-man roster. They got certain non-roster guys, Sean Newcomb. Like we could have picked a lot of those guys that are like outside shots, but I think we picked guys that we think we're going to see.
They still have Jacob Junis around. I mean, they have rotational depth.
Sure. And there's a lot of reason to let Harrison develop and not hurry up and bring him up. He's still young. But good pick, I would say.
Obvious pick. But you can't go wrong with Kyle Harrison at number 1 for who. I think if you asked most Giants fans, who are you most excited to see this spring, it's probably Kyle Harrison.
Yeah. And not to harp on everything I already mentioned, but if he struggles in AAA and with the walks and the homers or whatever, it's a big jump going from.
Oh boy!
Then they will let him struggle and just work it out. They're not going to say, come on up. I think September then. If he's struggling, you'll see him in September. If he's pitching like a monster and the fans are going, we're not coming to the yard unless you bring up Harrison.
So
then
kind of going along line with my minor league theory of succeed, fail, figure out how to succeed again.
It's a game of adjustments, Doug.
Yes, it is.
But
who's your number one?
It's kind of funny, number one, because I had a longer list and I was just kind of changing it up based on what you guys picked. It could have been Patrick Bailey, my number one, stuff like that. But this is a guy that I'm very interested in just for the fact that he is a Rule 5 pick. Blake Sabol, he is in the catching mix. He also plays outfield. But 2022 was a big year for him on defense, switching to catcher. He did a little bit in 2021, and then he really started doing more in 2022. He plays left field and right field, basically like barely played center field, but look for him as a fifth-ish outfielder / third catcher for the Giants. They need to keep him on the opening day roster, mind you.
Yeah. Yep.
And if he's on the opening day roster, that means he mashed in spring training. It was like the Giants have had Rule 5 guys and they haven't worked out. Like Drew Ferguson, remember that guy? Houston Astros, Rule 5 pick. They sent him back. They couldn't add him. They couldn't find room for him. Danny Jimenez, Julian Fernandez, a lot of names that are still kind of floating around these days, but they were former Rule 5 picks. So Blake Sabol is the guy that they picked this year. And the stats that jump out to me, the guy just does everything. Like, I don't know how Pittsburgh really gave up on this guy. Always hitting for a high average, on base percentage each year, just 380, 347, 426, and 100 plate appearances. But like the guy gets on base, strikeouts or whatever, but hits bombs, gets on base, hits for high average. What pinch me? Like it also plays catcher. Like
what's the catch?
I feel like the Giants might be interested in that. Oh, they are interested in him. He's on the 40. He's going to be. Is he on the 40? He's going to be on the 40. I don't know.
Well, it's like you said, because of
he's on
the status that he has. If he's not on that opening day roster, then he gets shipped back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
but
maybe Cincinnati because they took him in a trade and then traded.
It would be. I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. But so he's going to be there up until basically like that last series, probably where they come back and play the A's. Yeah. The Bay series that they do every year before the season starts. So
yeah,
Blake Sabol will be around until late March for sure.
Yep. And he's a lefty. It kind of goes back to that. Maybe Patrick Bailey will eventually start hitting lefty. And I don't know how much this guy is going to be, like, I don't know enough about him. I don't know how is he as a catcher defensively and stuff like that. But I do know that the Giants like him enough to give him plenty of opportunity this spring. 6'4", 225, big catcher too. So 25 years old. And I'm looking forward.
Sounds like the other guy.
The Blake Bomber over here. So we'll see. Blake Street Bomber. But yeah,
Brooks,
that's my number one.
I appreciate you coming on, man, and filling in for Rob. Always fun having you on. And I'm sure we'll have you on again.
I love being on the Say Hey Pod, especially in the Believe Network. This is how we do it. And I'm looking forward to let's just say entertaining 2023 season. So we're going to have a lot of fun watching the Giants this year and keep our expectations at bay, in the Cove. No, it's a lot of fun. And Rob, I hope next time I'm on here, I hope you're here as well, buddy.
Yes, of course. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, or you can find them at believe.com. For Say Hey Brooks and Say Hey Doug. We love you. Say Hey Rob. We'll catch you next time on the Say Hey podcast. And until then, go Giants.
Go Giants.
Say hey, say who, say Willie, say hey, say who, swinging at the plate, say hey, say who, say Willie, that Giants kid is great.